Welcome to Adobe Illustrator CC. Everybody has this on their computer, so this is what your first view is when you open Adobe Illustrator. It will kind of show you possibly some previous works that you may have worked on. So this view will change every time you kind of open up your Adobe Illustrator. For right now, everybody does have on the top left the button for a new file. So we're going to click on New File, and I'm inviting you to make this along with me. Pause your video as needed to either type things in, just so you don't miss instructions. So this is always going to be go at your own pace. Some people might need to rewind and hear something again. Nobody knows that you're rewinding. It's totally fine, but I don't want you to miss out on instructions. Okay, so then you get this new document box where we can make lots of decisions. We might be making a work of art that's going to be seen on a mobile app or a website. Those use different kinds of settings. Most of what we're creating this semester as we get started learning both programs is going to be a print-based item. So I'm going to have you click on the word print. All right. And they put down here for us just some preset things like a regular letter size, which would be like 8.5 by 11, A4 size, which is going to be a little bit smaller. There's more presets to look at for all kinds of things. For the most part, we're going to be creating our own from new. And for that, we're going to use the dialog area on the right. We're going to go from points, which tends to be the default, to inches, because we in this class probably can relate better to the idea of measuring things in inches rather than points or picas. That's going to become a little bit more advanced with graphic design than what we're going to work with here. So set the units of measurement to inches. We are going to then also come down here to the bottom and make sure that the print mode of color says CMYK. Now, it's definitely going to say that because we chose the print option. And when we print things out here on the really nice photo printers in the lab, they work with 4 colors. They work with cyan, which is a blue, magenta is sort of a pink-red color, yellow, Y, and K stands for key black, K-E-Y, black. So those are the inks that are going to be printing our pictures. So that's the color mode we need to work with. If we were working with mobile or a web design thing, something that's only going to get viewed on a screen, whether it's on a phone or an app or something like that, that's going to use RGB color. It's a different range. We're going to look a little bit at those later on in the semester, but right now we're going to keep this as CMYK color. The quality of the image we want to keep as very high so that if we change our image to a pixel-based information like a JPEG or a PNG, it'll stay really high in quality. All right, back up to the top here. We're going to make this 8 by 10 inches. I'm going to highlight 5, take it off, come over here, highlight 1, make it into a 10. Then it's set currently from width to height as a vertical orientation. I'm going to turn this into a horizontal one. So I can flip on the horizontal and you'll notice it automatically changed the option there below. We're only going to work with one drawing, or what I call one artboard in this file. So we just need to leave this at 1. And I'm going to have you highlight and title this document. We're going to call it L1 Basics 1. And then we're going to throw your last name on there. So I'm going to type Martin for mine. You're going to type whatever your last name is at the end of your title. Every time we work on a file in Illustrator or Photoshop, your last name needs to be somewhere in that title that already exists. So you can either add your your last name to the end of the file name or to the beginning of it. It depends on what you fancy. All right, now we're ready to hit create, and we have ourselves an actual 10 by 8 document. Ta-da! Okay, so let's talk about the workspace. On the left-hand side, we have the tools. Notice I'm moving the tools. Isn't that crazy? All right, these little vertical dots right here, the gray ones, allow us to grab that and move it wherever you want on your desktop. Think of working in a studio and you've got your paper on the desktop, you've got pens, pencils, markers, whatever, and you want to move them around. Same thing, okay? There is a double arrow right above here, and it changes the toolbar into an actual bar, or it changes it into a double wide bar. All right, some people want to see less of it, so it takes up less space, and they can hide it kind of over here on the side, or some people want to see a little bit more stackage. Okay, what I'm going to ask you all to do is to go down to the very bottom of this toolbar, and 3 little dots tell us to edit the toolbar. So we're going to click edit. I'm going to invite you up to the very top right-hand side. This is a menu, a hamburger menu, basically. And so every side, inside most panels, there is some kind of a menu in which you can do more things. We're going to click on this menu, and currently your settings for your tools are set into the basic standard format. I'm going to ask that we work with the advanced tool settings. So we're going to click on advanced, and there it is. It's got me set as sort of a double wide. You can go extra long if you'd like. I kind of prefer the side by side. That's just me. And it allows us to see a few different tools that we don't in the basics world. All right. The toolbar is broken down into several sections. This area up here, these first 4 on right and left, give us the opportunity to do different kinds of selecting of different objects in our artwork. The next set over here allows us to be able to draw or paint or type information. Okay. Down below here, we have different ways to alter the things that we've drawn. And then we start to have some specialty things as far as creating gradients or picking colors that we might like out of a work of art. Down at the bottom, these last 2 are going to be pretty important to us. They allow us to zoom in on an object or to click the hand to move our paper around on the desktop. Very handy. Okay. So the hand allows us to move the actual physical artboard. The zoom tool, if you click the zoom tool, it's standard and default is set for plus. I could literally roll my wheel up and down, and it kind of moves the document up and down. But if I hold the Alt key, ALT, it's right next to the space bar. If I hold the Alt key, it'll reduce the image or enlarge it based on how you roll the wheel on the mouse. Rolling back toward myself, it gets smaller. Pushing the wheel forward, it gets bigger. Just a nice, easy, quick way to zoom in on something that you need to look at a little closer or further away. All right, moving on. Now we have, let's get us back to a decent size. Well, I'm kind of small, aren't I? So the best way to get yourself to the full view on your screen of your work of art is to double click the hand tool. Double click, look at that. And he is now full size, stem to stern, as big as we can get him on our screen view. Now, you might wonder if you open up a picture or a document, gosh, what size did I make this? A shortcut to know what size your document is to touch the Control key, which should be the far left one at the bottom row, Control R. Control R puts rulers along the top and along the left side of the document. Okay. Now, if your rulers are reading some weird things and they aren't set in inches, if you right click on this black bar that is the ruler, you can make sure that it is using inches to tell us how big certain areas are. So I can see it's very small type. It says 10 over here and it says 8 down here in the bottom corner. So I know that I'm 8 by 10. It's always good to know how big your document is and where you're working. Okay, the next phase. What's on the right-hand side of the page? Well, we have 3 different tabs over here. These panels are standard when you tend to open up Adobe Illustrator. The Properties panel is usually on top. It has the ability to change any value of color, of size, you name it, any kind of changes we can do to something that we've drawn on our desktop with the tools can change over here. So for example, we'll do this together. I'm going to come over here to what you'll be seeing, I believe, as you get started, is this rectangle tool. Okay, it's below the letter T if you're in the double wide. It is below the line segment tool if you're in the single, okay? And with it highlighted, you can see that in the right-hand corner, there's a small little triangle. If a tool has a triangle in the lower right corner, it means if you hold down that tool with your mouse, you can see more tools of shapes underneath. So many times tools are hiding more things below. Right now, let's just draw a rectangle. And to do that, we're going to just click and drag on the desktop. Okay. Now, as soon as I did that, the properties looked different over here than a moment before. They show us different measurements. They show us the appearance that it's currently filled with white and it has an outline stroke that's black and that's 1 point. It shows that it's 100% solid in a in a color. So we can change things over here about our object on the desktop. So let's try that. I'm going to click fill once and up pops a color swatch box. In the color swatch box, you can pick any color you'd like. I'm going to grab red because it's nice and vibrant. But you pick a color. And now I'm clicking off away from that dialog box. I'm going to click on the stroke and let's make the stroke a completely different color. I'm going to go with sky blue. Now, the stroke that I have chosen, the color stroke, it's a thin line right now, kind of hard to see. I'm going to come over here to this number picker and we can change the width of that outline stroke by clicking up or down, or use a pull down and choose how wide or how thin you wish for that outline stroke to be. I'm going to set mine at 8 just for kicks. Okay, so something to notice, it shows up over here in the properties panel because we change things over here. Guess what? You can change things over here as well. Look, this box is a solid box, so it is showing us the fill of the inside of that shape. You notice that every time I touch one of the tools over here, a pop-up box here tells us what we're looking at, tells us the tool, and shows us a little bit of how to use it. So the color fill is on top. That means it's dominant. If I want to change the inside color, I can do that from over here as well as over here. Okay. If the outline box, which I'm clicking on now, what we call the stroke, if it's selected and up on top, that means it's ready for me to change its color over here or over here as well. Now, to change a color over here, I'm going to start with the inside first. I'm going to double click this fill box. And up comes the color picker. The color picker is sort of like a rainbow, or if anybody else has had like a visual art class, we talk about the color wheel. It goes from red through red violets, violets, blue violets, blue greens, greens, yellows, yellow oranges, and back to red again. In this section right here, we are going to click and choose what color of this we would like it to be. If I go down and choose a color coming down, see how the red gets darker. This is what we call a shade. If I go across the top, the red's getting lighter, and this is what we call a tint of a color. If we go diagonally, the color gets grayer, and this is what we call a tone. Now, it doesn't have to stay red. I could then move this color bar and decide on what kind of color I would like my inside of my fill to be. I'm going to choose this color here and click OK. And now the inside is no longer red. It's now different because we use the color picker over here rather than the fill box over here. The fill box has some limited colors, some basics to start with. But you have a little bit more capacity over here to make your own colors a little bit more unique and personal. Okay. The same thing would happen if we wanted to change the outline stroke. I would double click. There's my color picker. Maybe I'll choose something a little bit more orange and fun here and click OK. And now we have a different color. All right. So these are just some of the basics of what a tool can do, as well as what the properties panel can do. There's a lot more to the properties panel that we're going to learn as we start moving into different lessons, but this is sort of a basic get us started. Inside the properties area, we also have two more tabs. One is called libraries. We're not going to really use the libraries this semester. In graphics 2 and 3, we start to use that a little bit more. Layers. The world of art on Illustrator is often created in making images on different layers. Gives a little bit of freedom, but here's what it is. This is a layer. Currently, this layer has this seafoam green rectangle with an orange background or outline stroke. The eyeball shows that it is visible currently right now. If I click on the eyeball, the rectangle goes away. If I click back, it shows up. Okay. If I don't want anything to happen to this, if I don't want it to get moved or touched in some way, I could, in this blank space here, click it to lock. Look what happened. I get a little pencil with a no symbol on it. That means I can't do anything on this layer. It's been locked, so I can't damage anything that I've already drawn. To solve that problem, I can add a new layer. Ta-da! At the bottom, right next to the trash can, is a little plus sign. Click the plus sign and it adds a new layer. That means, lo and behold, I can come in and draw a new shape. Let's go back to our shapes. Under the shape tool, I'm going to hold it down and look, we can have rounded rectangles. I can make an ellipse. I can do a polygon. I can do a star. All right. So let's look at some of these. Here is the rounded rectangle. It's not that much different than our regular rectangle, but let's look at the ellipse tool. So when you draw any shape, you click and drag. Okay, notice our colors are set still from the previous use. You can always change these or leave them as they are. I'm going to leave them right now. Right now, I'm still holding on to the mouse and I'm still holding down the button. Okay, now while I'm holding on to this button, I can hold Shift. Shift will automatically snap this into what we would call a perfect circle. And we know it's a perfect circle because of the crosshair drawn in the middle. Okay, when I let go, this is now a perfect circle. So I can do that as soon as I start drawing. There it is. I'm holding down my Shift key, holding down my Shift key. All right. So you can do that with a square as well. If I come back over here and hold down the rectangle tool, instead of a rectangle, if I hold Shift and drag, hit a diagonal line, which tells us that it is constrained to a perfect square. Handy when you need those perfect colors, right? Okay. Gosh, how did she just get rid of all those? Shortcut. Control Z is your go back. So if you want to undo something, hit Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, and it keeps going back in steps further and further. So if you make a mistake, fear not. You can either click on something and hit the delete button on your desktop, or you can do Control Z, undo that if you made a mistake. The last thing I want to show you is how to save. We're going to open this document up again in the next video, but I want to show you how to make a save and where we're going to put it every time that we save work. So we're going to go under File. We're going to go Save As. We already have it titled, which is wonderful. We're going to leave it as an Adobe Illustrator because to keep working with it, we need it to stay as an Adobe Illustrator document. In the left-hand side of your window here, you're looking for your Google Drive. You're going to double-click on Google Drive, go into My Drive, because it's yours, and we're going to scroll till you see Graphic Design 1 folder that you made in your Google Drive. We're going to open it, and we have the Lessons folder and the Projects folder. Since this is a lesson, it's going to go in the Lessons folder. Double-click, and then hit Save. And it is now saved, click OK, as an Illustrator document in your Google Drive. That way, when we open up the next video, we'll be able to reopen this and keep working.